Hey everyone, this is going to be an update video because it's coming up on my 1 year anniversary after my double lung transplant, which was on July 25th, 2017. As I am recording, it is Saturday evening, July 22nd, 2018. So in 3 days will be my 1 year anniversary. And for the past year, I have been, it's been an eventful year. So for those of you who don't have the time or don't really want to sit through an entire long video, I'll try to be very concise here in the beginning and just say that for the past year, my lungs have been great. I'm so thankful still, always, for my donor family, my donor, all the doctors and hospital staff who helped to save my life. Of course, my family, friends, all my close loved ones, and overall, of course, thankful to God for getting everything and orchestrating everything to work out how it has, pairing me up with a great set of lungs who haven't failed me, not even once. 1 year later, they're still working great. I'm breathing excellently. I don't need oxygen, and it's just very liberating. I'm so grateful and thankful for that. At the same time, the past year has been very difficult because I've had a lot of complications. And the brief summary of it is that after transplant, my stomach became infected with a very aggressive fungus. I developed an ulcer. It perforated. All that leading up to me having to have a very major surgery in January of this year, wherein they removed my stomach, a part of my liver, my gallbladder, and I was left internally disconnected my esophagus from the rest of my digestive system, beginning with my small intestine. So this, on the 27th, 2 days after my 1 year transplant anniversary, I will have the next surgery, one more surgery, hopefully, which will be to reconnect me inside so that I can once again resume eating normally and drinking and all the functions that you're supposed to be able to do when you have a working internal digestive system. So this video is to say thank you to everyone who has been there with me, both in spirit, in person, through thoughts, prayers, positive vibes, whatever you've been sending my way. So thankful for all that. And the video is also to ask for your continued support in all those ways. With my next surgery, I keep saying my next, but really I should be saying my last, because I'm declaring, I'm believing and hoping and declaring that this will be the last surgery. And all of this after this, everything will be just, everything will be behind me. And so please keep me in mind on July 27th. I went to surgery. I'm supposed to be there at 6 a.m. and it will most likely be a very lengthy surgery because it's very complicated what they have to do inside. So for those of you who are pressed for time, that is the gist of this video. And so for everyone else who wants to stick around, I want to give a more lengthy update, a more in-depth update, I should say, about everything that has transpired over the course of the last year. Some of the events are fuzzy because I've been out of it for most of that time. What I say out of it, I mean I've been either very weak, very sick, or just unconscious, like in the hospital and intensive care. And so the details are fuzzy, and the event and what has happened has honestly been so complicated and has so many phases and parts to it that even if I were completely level-headed, it would be very difficult to keep track of all those things. I should have written them all down, but like I said, I was busy like being very ill, fighting for my life, so I didn't really always write down what was going on. But basically, to start at the beginning, after my double lung transplant last year, things were going great. I doctors were actually amazed because the very same day of my transplant, I was able to get extubated, which means that the breathing tube they put inside you to help you breathe during major surgery when you're in anesthesia, I was able to have that removed. In fact, I was adamant about having it removed because I was like waking up and the tube was really bothering me. And a lot of people who have double lung transplants don't get extubated that quickly. So that was all very awesome, positive signs. Um, and everyone, like I said, was amazed that I was getting extubated so quickly. That same day, I was already like up, talking, sitting up in a chair, alert and everything. And so we were thinking this is all great signs and everything's going great. But about like 3 days later, I started to have major complications with my stomach and digestive system. When you have a major surgery like that, a lot of times, like your whole body's put to sleep, and that includes your digestive system. And so it takes some patients a while for all that to start working again and wake up. And in my case, that was doubly so because I also, being a cystic fibrosis patient, already have slow digestion and issues with my stomach and digestive system. So basically my stomach basically kind of just shut down. Your stomach is a muscle. It's supposed to expand when you put food in it and contract back to its regular size whenever the food is, whenever it finishes digesting that food and that food is being pushed into your small intestine. My stomach didn't do that. It just basically became distended. It was described to me as it being like a balloon that had been inflated and now deflated. It was like floppy and it wasn't retaining its original shape. So it's just full of food, distended, and the food that was sitting in there started. This was food that was in my stomach even from before transplant. So many days that there was food in there, and I made the mistake because I thought I was okay. Initially my stomach was working fine after transplant. Like I said, like 3 days later, it stopped working for some reason. So in those 3 days, I did have like small meals. One of the things that I had was actually pho. So when doctors went in to scope my stomach, they're like, "Yeah, your stomach is just completely full of food. There's a lot of noodles and a whole bunch of stuff in there." So it just made me laugh to know that pho that I ate I was carrying around with me for a very long time. Like I want to say weeks. That stuff was in me. So anyways, not to get off on another subject, but basically that food that was in there, it started when it's just sitting there. Obviously, it started to ferment, and all that causes gases and buildup of gases in my stomach. So that was very painful, very painful. And it was, like I said, since my stomach wasn't working properly, it was hard to burp it out because it was just sitting there. So what happened is first they tried to put a NG tube, which is a nasal gastric tube, go in through your nose down into your stomach, and this tube is just like a straw meant to provide a way for air in your stomach to be vented out. And as soon as they put this tube in me, I began to feel a lot of discomfort. It felt like the tip of the tube was like rubbing up against my stomach. Very painful. I complained. I said, "Please take it out. I don't want it." But they insisted that it was helping me. And so, to cut a long story short, after about like a week of, maybe a little less than a week of me insisting that this tube was harming me, they went in to scope my stomach. Sorry, that's my dog. They went in to scope my stomach and found there was ulcers. One big ulcer at the top of my stomach, and then 2 small ulcers beneath that. And the bigger ulcer measured 5 centimeters long, and the smaller ulcers were just tiny. They were like the tip of a pinky, basically, in size. And so they decided to put me on anti-acid treatment, because usually patients who have ulcers after transplant, they are put on antacids. Sometimes you can get an ulcer just from all the stress that your body is undergoing. You can develop an ulcer, and so they decided to put me on anti-acid treatment to help this ulcer heal, and to um, reduce the acid in my stomach so that it would not keep eroding at the stomach lining, causing the ulcer to get bigger. So we tried this anti-acid treatment for several weeks. After about a little less than a month after my surgery, I was able to go home. My lungs, like I said, still working great, but still I had issues with my stomach. I want to also mention that because my stomach wasn't working, I didn't have a way to eat or get nutrients, so I had to get surgically placed a GJ tube, which is a feeding tube, which is like a double tube. It's like a tube inside a tube. One portion of it lets into your stomach, and the other portion of it lets into your jejunum, which is the second part of your small intestine, after the duodenum, which is the initial part of your small intestine. And so I was receiving nutrition into the part that went into my intestine, but I was but the gastric part, that part was just to vent my stomach of the gases and the fluid and all that buildup that was in there, to help me be more comfortable when I was in pain. And so that was what I was doing at home. That was my main source of nutrition, was through the feeding tube. And I tried weeks of that anti-acid therapy, and I kept telling my stomach doctor, look, this isn't helping. I'm in a lot of pain. I don't feel comfortable. I'm decompensating, because even though I was trying to do the feedings with the tube, just the fact that the ulcer was there causing so much pain and irritation, even feeding through that tube was very painful. And I was in and out of the hospital a lot, with basically I kept getting admitted for dehydration and malnutrition, because I just couldn't receive adequate nutrients or liquids or hydration, because I couldn't drink through my mouth, because even water just really hurt the ulcer. And through the tube, like I said, everything was really irritated and very painful as well. So in and out of the hospital, my stomach doctor didn't want to even scope me, because they wanted to give me some time for the anti-acid treatment to work. They said 6 to 8 weeks. So finally, at the 8-week mark, I insisted. I was like, I cannot wait any longer. I need you to go in there and look and see what's going on. So they go in. She goes in and realizes that the ulcer is actually even bigger. At this point, it was like 7 to 8 centimeters. So we started with 5, and now it's like 2 to 3 centimeters bigger in diameter. And they're at a loss, so that we have no idea why it's not healing. They termed it a non-healing ulcer. And so this persisted for several months, of in and out of the hospital, like I said. So come January, I'm in really bad shape. I lost a lot of weight. As you can see, even now I look quite different, because I weigh 64 pounds and my normal weight is like 105, 108 pounds. So I'm quite a bit down in weight from what I normally should be. And so come January, I was admitted to the hospital with a severe case of malnutrition and dehydration. I couldn't tolerate anything, even through the tube. I just in very poor shape. And they did all this. I was in the hospital for like a week, and initially, and I asked the doctors, what was their thoughts, and they were completely at a loss. So like, you still have this ulcer. By this point, the ulcer had gone up to, I want to say, like 9 or 10 centimeters, if I remember correctly, and they did not have any idea why this ulcer persisted, why it wasn't healing. Of course, this was 6 months later after my transplant, so by now the food that was in there before causing the irritation to the ulcer was gone. My stomach was empty at this point. But even so, even with my stomach being empty as it was, the ulcer wasn't healing. So my family and I insisted. We said, please, you have to do something. You have to please consult other doctors. Maybe someone has seen a case like this. We were just urging them to do anything they could, because they kind of had no idea where to go with this. Like, they had never seen something like this where an ulcer just wouldn't heal, even though they were throwing all these treatments at it. And so finally somebody in my team, I think it was like, I honestly, I don't even know who this person was, and whoever it is, God bless them, because they had the idea to try to look for this one specific fungus. I don't know how this idea came to this person's mind, because it's a very rare fungus. And they decided to consult a pathologist and ask him to look specifically for this fungal infection. And sure enough, the pathologist confirmed that that is what I had, which is called mucormycosis. And mucormycosis is a very aggressive and difficult to treat fungus. And it's an opportunistic pathogen, which means it's a bad germ, it's a bad bug, it's a bad I want to say it's a bad, I forget the word I'm looking for, but basically it's a bad thing to have, and it affects people who are like, have weaker defenses in their body. So that would be like elderly people, or people, like with AIDS, who have lower immune systems. And in my case, people who are immunosuppressed. And what that means is I take medicine to keep my immune system weak, so that my own immune system doesn't attack my new lungs, my new organs. And so that is, as far as I can guess, that I really don't know if the ulcer started because of the stress of undergoing transplant, and then along the way it became infected with mucormycosis, or if somehow, because I was immunosuppressed, mucormycosis entered my body and then it developed the ulcer. I'm really not sure. No one really knows how I even contracted this fungal infection. And so the treatment for this infection is aggressive IV antifungals initially, and to cut away the infected tissue. So we knew from the very beginning, we knew that this would require surgery, but doctors were very hesitant to operate on me because my nutritional status was so poor that they didn't think I could survive such an aggressive surgery. And if I did survive it, they weren't sure that I would be able to heal afterwards, meaning that my tissues would be able to heal themselves and, back together, whatever they cut out. If they sewed me back up, like sewed my intestines back up or whatever, they weren't sure that those sutures would heal themselves. And the risk is that those sutures would burst. And in that situation, that would be a life-threatening situation, because if the sutures burst, then basically everything that's in my digestive system would now be basically leaking into my abdominal cavity, which is obviously not meant to have those sorts of like contaminants in there. So that would have been a life-threatening situation, and they were very hesitant to operate on me. What they did is they very aggressively started trying to get my nutrition higher. So on top of doing the tube feeds, which were so painful that I had to just tolerate because I had to get nutritionally better in order to go through the surgery, they also started me on what's called TPN, which is total parenteral nutrition, which is being fed through your veins through an IV. So basically, I was hooked up 24/7 to a a bag that it looks like there's milk in there, but it's really not milk. It's like a white formula, and it has a lot of vitamins, minerals, lipids, carbohydrates, proteins, everything that your body needs, but it's already broken down into the smallest units so that when it's put into your veins, your body just readily absorbs it. So it doesn't go through your digestive system. It is just put into your veins, and it's already like um, at the smallest level of, I guess, molecular level or whatever that it can be. So your body's ready, your veins just receive it, you know? And so with all of that, after maybe like a week or two of that sort of treatment, finally they got my nutritional status up to a better level, even though it wasn't a great level, but it was basically they decided to operate me at that level because if they didn't, my life was in danger. Like my life was already in danger because by this point the ulcer was over 10 centimeters long. We didn't even really know how big because they were afraid to go back in and look because they didn't want to disturb anything in there, because last time they had gone in there with the scope, they thought they might have seen like a perforation. They weren't sure, but it turns out when they went in to operate on me that yes, the ulcer had perforated, and the only reason that all the contents of my stomach and stuff didn't leak out into my abdominal cavity is that because the ulcer, where it was, the positioning of it was such that other organs around it were pressing up against that hole and kind of keeping everything contained in my stomach. And so when they went in there, they saw that the infection was actually worse than we thought. Before the surgery, they talked to me about possible findings that they could find in there. And so, you know, we were hoping for the best, that the situation would be such that they could cut away at the ulcer and leave a portion of my stomach still there. But as it turns out, when they went in there, the ulcer, the positioning and the shape and the size of it was such that there was no way to salvage my stomach. And so they had to cut away my entire stomach, part of my liver, and they also took away my gallbladder because even though my gallbladder wasn't infected, they were afraid that there might have been microscopic infection in the gallbladder since it was so close to everything else. And since you can live without your gallbladder, they decided the risk of leaving it in there and then having that be infected and this fungus growing even more, they didn't want to take that risk. So they decided to just cut it out and be on the safe side. So right now, as I stand, I no longer have a stomach, part of my liver, or my gallbladder. And they also left, when they did the surgery in January to remove all that, they also left my esophagus disconnected from the rest of my digestive system, which is the small intestine. And so the reason for doing that is, like I said, my nutritional status was so poor. They thought that if they connected those two ends together, that the sutures wouldn't hold and that it would rupture, and like I said, that would be life-threatening. So the plan was to leave me disconnected and wait a period of time until I got nutritionally better and healthier so that my body was in better shape to heal itself. And at that point, they would go in and reconnect me. So that is where I'm at right now. I still am not at a great nutritional level, but at this point, I feel, and the doctors agree, that I've plateaued, that I am as good as I'm going to get based, with the types of feeding that I'm depending on. So being on a liquid diet through this tube and being on a diet through the vein, because I'm still on TPN right now. I had to get back on it because I wasn't gaining weight with just the tube feeds. So right now I'm doing TPN and the tube feeds, and I've gotten to a status where I feel strong, thank God. I have strength. I can, I basically had to retrain my body to do everyday functions, to get up out of bed, just to even pick up my head, because after laying in bed for so long, in January, I was in the hospital for 3 months. Most of that was spent, a lot of that was spent in the ICU, intensive care unit. And right after the surgery, um, I I was left in a very weakened state because my electrolytes just got all out of whack, and my organs started to shut down. One night, I was swelling up with fluid everywhere. Right now, I look very thin and like basically skin and bones. But at that point, I was like very fluffy and puffy because all the tissues in my body were not retaining my nutritional status was so poor that my tissues weren't strong enough or healthy enough to retain the fluid inside them. So the fluid in my body was leaking outside of my cells, which is what's causing the inflammation and puffiness all over my body. So whereas I weighed like 64 pounds, at that point I was weighing like 75 pounds, but all that extra stuff was just water weight. It was just weight that, my body should have gotten rid of this water, but it couldn't. I was just puffing up. So it wasn't like actual weight that was helping or benefiting me. So anyway, everything, my electrolytes went all out of whack, and my organs started shutting down. My kidneys shut down. I had to go on emergency dialysis. I started having very difficult time breathing. I had to be intubated. And also my heart began to have issues where it almost shut down. I almost went into cardiac arrest. And just praise God, through the intervention of the doctors, they acted so quickly. I went from telling the nurse in the ICU one night, I really can't breathe, to within 15 minutes, the doctor was there and saying, Marla, how do you feel about us intubating you? And I had to make quick decisions, like tell my family, Mom, I'm going to be intubated. I'm not going to be conscious, but if anything were to happen, if this situation were to happen, these are my wishes. If this were to happen, these were my wishes. And these are conversations that we've had many times over, but it's always good to have these conversations again, because, when you're that sick and your parents or your family, not just your parents, but whoever your family is, my sweetheart, Jonathan, my sister, my parents, those are my main caregivers. And so it's difficult, it would be difficult for them to make these decisions if they didn't know my wishes. So I let them intubate me, a little bit afraid that I might not ever wake up again, but you have to do what you have to do. And so I just remember waking up a few days later, being intubated, and just hating that tube in my throat. I felt like I couldn't breathe. And so it was a very, very, very rough time. And so I decompensated. My muscles deteriorated. I had to relearn or retrain my body, like I said, to do everything. And thankfully now I'm at a point where I can walk. I can shower on my own without any assistance. I can get dressed. I still struggle with like bending over, picking things off of the floor. But thankfully, I'm learning how to do all of that again. Or I have gotten to the point where I can do all of that again, and I'm very strong. So now, even though being strong like that is a great thing, the problem now becomes I have all this energy and I feel strong, but now that I can do a whole bunch of stuff, I'm burning way more calories, so I'm losing weight. And so it's to the point where, like I said, I've plateaued. I have to have surgery to get reconnected, or else I'm just going to keep losing weight, and then it's going to come to a point where I won't be healthy or strong. I'll get weak again, and then I won't be able to do the surgery at all. So that is where I'm at right now, and I just wanted to ask everyone to please continue to offer me your support and your love and your prayers and everything. I know you guys will, but I just want to tell you how thankful I am for you. I don't take any single one of you for granted, and I'm sorry that I am not the best at keeping up with social media or updating people. a lot of times I'm just too weak or sick that I will be honest and say that sometimes, even though I might physically be able to, mentally or spiritually, I have not been well this past year. And so I, I, I'll be honest and say that I've gotten to a very dark place, and God is bringing me out of it. He is restoring my body, my mind, and my spirit. But it's been rough this past year. And, some of the feelings I've struggled with are like depression and post-traumatic stress disorder, in the sense that, I was just traumatized anytime that I would have any conversation with any medical staff or any sort of like tiny pain or ache or new symptom. I was just, I've been traumatized to think, oh my God, something else is wrong, like another major issue, because that's what it has seemed like. It seems like it's just been like one thing after another going wrong, to the point where, like I said, I got into a very dark place. I sank into bitterness, and I let myself sink into like hopelessness. And many times, especially when I've been in excruciating pain, I've prayed for, literally like to die. And so it's stuff that, like I'm really not proud of how I've handled the situation. I wish I would have handled this with more grace. Like, I wish that if I had to do this over again, which I pray to God I never ever have to, but if I did, I would look to God more and cling to Him rather than what I did, which was just get kind of bitter and angry towards Him, and many times turn my back completely to Him and didn't want to, like, I got to the point where I began doubting if God was even a good God, or if He was, like, did He enjoy seeing the suffering of me and so many other people that are sick. And it's thoughts that when you're in such a weakened state, like, they come to your mind, and it's just like a spiritual war that is going on constantly for your joy and your contentment and your soul. And so, excuse me. This is my spit cup. I have to spit out my saliva because, like I said, my esophagus is not connected to anything else, so I can't swallow even my own spit, water, and of course not food or anything. It wouldn't have anywhere to go. It would sit in my esophagus, and I would eventually like choke on it or, aspirate or something. So it's really disgusting but necessary, and so hopefully that very soon that will be the end of the spit cups around. But anyway, like I said, I haven't really been very social, and this process has taken more away from me than I would have liked, even though I'm regaining it. But I feel like not only physically have I lost, I felt, because I don't really feel this way anymore. I'm starting to come out of it, like I said. But I felt like I had lost not only just physical parts of myself, but also the non-tangible parts of myself. I didn't feel like me anymore. I felt like I'd just become nothing more than just like a medical, like, I don't know, like a patient, like just a medical phenomenon, because everyone's so amazed that I'm still here and my case is very unique. And like, I started to feel not like a human, and like I've lost parts of myself, like my sense of humor, my tolerance, my personality, all those parts of you that make you who you are. I feel like when it came down to the nitty-gritty, I didn't hold on to them. And so, one of my confessions is that, and I really hope I don't offend anybody with this, but it's one of the confessions is that when people tell me that they admire me, or that that I'm so strong, or that I'm this and that, I know that they mean well, and it's so sweet that they have that perspective of me. But hearing that really is difficult for me, because I don't feel that I've been strong through this. In fact, I know I haven't, because, like I said, rather than um, clinging to God and letting Him carry me through this, I kind of turned my back, and just became really bitter and angry, and didn't. I don't know. I let myself get lost. I feel like I let this process chip away at the core of who I am, and I feel like I should have fought harder, I guess, to retain that. And I want to say that any perceived, the reason that it's hard for me to hear that I'm strong is because I know that any perceived strength that you guys see in me is not really me. It's strength from God. It's and the times that I've prayed for strength, a lot of times we pray for strength when we're going through stuff, and you sometimes wonder, like, okay, well, like, what strength, what form is that strength going to manifest itself in your life? And I think sometimes we have this image of just waking up one day and just feeling strong, like you can do this, and it might happen like that. It might just be like a switch that goes off in your mind, and you're like, okay, you know what, I feel like I can get through this. But for me, I don't think it's been like that. I feel like the way that God has given me strength is honestly just through through all the people in my life who have been there, who are still there, and are fighting when I didn't want to fight anymore, and who have had faith when I didn't have faith, and hope when I became hopeless. And so any perceived strength that you see in me is, you should see it as a reflection of you, because you, the person in my life who loves me and cares for me, you guys are my strength, And so I just want to say thank you for being that strength when I've acted weak, been weak, and acted cowardly, and have, had selfish prayers to like die and everything, because I know that would have broken the hearts of my family and many people here who care for me on this earth. And so just know that you guys are my strength, and that my prayer is that any sort of admiration that you might have for me, please, I would pray that you would place that instead on where it rightfully belongs, which is with God. He is the sole, even though I've doubted this and doubted His goodness and everything, He's the sole reason I'm still here. He's He's allowed for the people in my life to be here, the doctors who have had the wisdom to know how to treat me, my family who unconditionally, would give up anything, even the people who have given of their love and their time. I've had people who, dear friends who have come to stay with me in the hospital, seen me at my worst. You guys know who you are, and I love you. Thank you so much. Family who has flown in from other countries, other states, taken off of work, like actually lost wages and in their job just to come care for me for a few days, to give my family some relief. Like all those things are immeasurable. The value of that is immeasurable to my family and to myself, and we're all so grateful. Thank you so, so, so much. And I just, am overwhelmed, like, with the love that you guys have shown and the support. So thank you so much, and please know that as my surgery is coming up, what keeps me going is, you know, the strength or whatever that you guys see in me. What keeps me going is still you. You all of you who like I said, love me, love on me and my family. And so I pray that your life is just as blessed, and that whether this I pray for a speedy recovery for myself as well. But even if it's not speedy, even if it takes a long time, I know I'll get there. I know I'll recover. I know I'll bounce back. And I just hope that, you know, soon I can catch up with all you guys, maybe even share a meal, something that I haven't been able to do in a long time. So, or just hang out, you know, and really I just want to, my prayers that I can get mentally, physically, and spiritually strong to give back, because I've been the recipient of so many blessings many times over that I just really want to, at this point, be able to give back to you guys. Like, if there's anything that I can do for you, please let me know. I'll do my best to help you out any way I can. I look forward to seeing all of you again, whoever wants to meet up after this. Probably not the best to get visitors in the hospital, just because it's, like I said, it's very difficult. But once I'm better and once I'm at home recovering and everything, I'd love to see it, you know, you guys and everything. And even if I don't always respond to your messages, please know that I read them, that they are heartfelt, and very grateful to receive all of those. So thank you so much for even having me in your thoughts and prayers. And I look forward to what's to come, because I know it's going to be great. Not it's going to be great to be back to who I am, or maybe even a better version of myself. And it's only through God's grace that I've been able to do that. He, you know, even when I was running away and being a coward and not wanting to face him or face what I was going through, he kept pursuing me. And it, you know, he just, that's what he does. Like, once you're his, and he's not gonna let you go. You know, he pursued me until I couldn't ignore him anymore, basically. And, you know, he got my mind right back to say, like, what am I thinking? You know, like, you snap out of all the thoughts that you're having that are just lies, you know, that, like I said, spiritually, there's a war going on for each and every one of our souls. And that war is between, you know, God and the other forces, you know, like I guess the spiritual forces that are not out there for your well-being. They're out there to destroy you. And so they nearly caught me, like I said, and God didn't allow it to happen. You know, he pursued me until I had to pay attention, had to wake up and say, what am I doing? Why am I falling into the trap of listening to all these negative things? So I'm thankful, I'm grateful for how he loves so perfectly, and even in my weakest, you know, like, I don't want to mess up. I can't quote directly the Bible, but I know it says that in our weakness, his strength is perfected. So that's what has happened in this case. And so Thank you so much for being a part of my life and for wanting to know how I'm doing, for watching this very lengthy video, if you have made it through. And so thank you so much, and hopefully I'll be seeing you soon. Keep me in your thoughts and prayers on the 27th. Have a great night. Bye.